Disclaimer, the following video is heavily inspired by CR Volcanic's videos on the monsters of Monster Hunter Frontier. Go watch his videos after this one. Also, all gameplay footage is in the description and belongs to its respective owners. We're in the final stretch now. Only 3 more classifications remain, and we're covering 2 in this video, the Leviathans and Piscine Wyverns. Luckily, there's only 3 new monsters in both, so this should be quick, I think. Anyway, hit those like and subscribe buttons and comment if you want, because we're gonna start with the Leviathans. The Leviathan classification is introduced in Monster Hunter 3, and mostly consists of reptilian, slender, aquatic monsters, though there are exceptions in all 3 camps. Frontier's Leviathans are quite unique, as all 3 of them have their own gimmicks. So let's begin. First, Barlaguao. One of 2 Frontier monsters whose names were localized in the card game Teppen, Barlaguao, also known as Baruragaru, is a large Leviathan introduced in Frontier's G3 update. He is an invasive Leviathan, who is said to live in the sea, but has recently been spotted in swamps and even deserts, where it has been attacking the local Iodrome and Gendrome populations. Already he looks quite unique when compared to other Leviathans, with his somewhat fish-like features, but the real cool part is his tongue, which he uses to drain the blood of his prey. Yes, this is the original vampiric monster, and boy does he deliver. His ability to drain blood actually comes into play during his fight, as depending on whose blood he drains, he can inflict different statuses. If he drains an Iodrome, he can use poison. If he drains a Gendrome, he inflicts paralysis, and if he drains a Velocidrome, or worse, you, he gains the ability to reduce your weapon's sharpness by using actual blood to attack. Now, Barlaguao is arguably one of the most metal monsters in the series just by that ability alone, but it comes with one issue. It would probably up the age rating of the game, and I don't know how people would react to that. Then again, I could be wrong, and this isn't an issue at all, but I think it's a valid concern to have in my opinion. Next up, we have Quarusepusu. Quarusepusu is a monster introduced in Frontiers 4.4 update, and he is quite strange. For one, he is fully terrestrial, one of the very few Leviathans to be so, and he has several crystals growing on his body, but he doesn't inflict crystal blight. Instead, he uses these crystals to absorb light, which he can use to stun opponents with a flash or to shoot a beam of light. He can also send out crystals with certain attacks, which absorb light on their own and then explode, dealing concussive damage. But that's only his base state. You see, Quarusepusu primarily lives in the Highlands, the same place as Gurinzaburu and Hyujikiki, and the Highlands are known for its storms, which usually roll in when a monster is enraged. When this happens, Quarusepusu's crystals change function, now acting as lightning rods, and he can use them to produce lightning beams and discharges. And when he flings his crystals, they absorb lightning and explode instead of light. He also has a corkscrew attack, where he digs his snout into the ground and uses it as an axis to spin around. Now, if I told you that we already have a map in the main series where he would fit in perfectly, would you believe me? Well, you better, because the Windward Plains of Monster Hunter Wilds would be perfect for him. Not only does it have a storm inclemency, which Quarusepusu could benefit from, but he also has been seen living in deserts, which the Windward Plains partially are. That map was practically made for him, dare I say. Finally, we have Pocarodon. A Leviathan introduced in the G1 update, Pocarodon is the only mammalian Leviathan in the series. That's right, remember in the Fanged Beast video where I said there were technically 8 new Fanged Beasts? Well, he's technically the 8th one. They resemble a mix between a walrus and a sea otter, and are the larger form of the Pocara. They are extremely territorial, attacking their opponents with their immense strength and by spitting water at them. Additionally, they can dig snowballs to throw at you like a circus seal, creating pits that can trap you in the process. They live in the Polar Sea, and their main opponents are the Giaurugu and an Orpatisu. Pocarodon suffers the same problem that his opponents suffer. He needs a cold map with salt water to live. The closest we have to one in the main series is the Frost Islands, and I think he could live there quite well, since it's an ice map with seawater. Additionally, if they bring the free polar sea monsters back, they should give them turf wars with each other. I think that would be cool. And those are all the Leviathans in Monster Hunter Frontier. As I said, they are very unique, but I actually feel like they could work in the main series better than other monsters we talked about so far. But now, we have the Piscine Wyverns. Now, the Piscine Wyverns are quite the controversial classification, as they usually have very bad fights, with Beotodus being their only saving grace. However, before Monster Hunter World, Leviathan was in Generations Ultimate, and in that game, he was actually decent. It was only in World they made him a Juratotus clone, and Leviathan first appeared in Frontier, before being introduced to the main series in Freedom Unite. But back to the point. Frontier's Piscine Wyverns are all technically variations of Leviathan. Now, this isn't as terrible as you might think, since remember, Frontier Leviathan was a decent fight, but it's still worth keeping that in mind. First, we have Leviathan subspecies. So here's an idea. What if you took Leviathan and made him red? Well, you get Leviathan subspecies, called Red Leviathan by fans, though personally I like to call her Ruby's Leviathan. Leviathan subspecies is an early generation subspecies, meaning she doesn't have much going for her. And yes, it's a she. Apparently, during mating season, female Leviathan melt rare ores to their magma armor, which is what makes them red. It doesn't have many different attacks, but it does have two notable ones. One where it shimmies around on the ground, dropping lava rocks everywhere, and one that she can only do in lava, where she jumps up in the air before swimming straight at the arena and causing a massive explosion. Does it make sense? Not really, but it's hilarious. If they choose to bring her back, I feel like she would inflict Blast Blight, maybe as a nod to this attack. And lastly, Aruganosu and Goruganosu. These are, without a doubt, the goofiest dudes in the entire series. Aruganosu and Goruganosu are two Piscine Wyverns introduced in Frontiers Forward.5 update. They were originally considered supremacy versions of Leviathan, but are now considered to be separate monsters. Appearance-wise, they're just silver and golden Leviathans, but when you learn more about them, you realize that they make no sense. First off, they live in the tower, and they use ice and thunder respectively. Additionally, Aruganosu can paralyze you, and Goruganosu can put you to sleep. They seemingly hate each other and will fight during the battle, but will also help each other to fight. Why? No clue. They can spin around to create a tornado, they can dig, and even help the other get up when the other is down. These guys will likely never come back, not only because they make no sense, but because they have no ecology at all. I've seen some say they could be brought back as an event quest, but I don't know, man, they just make no sense. If they do come back, it would probably be for a non-canon thing, like with the Final Fantasy and Witcher crossovers. And those are all the Piscine Wyverns of Frontier. It says a lot about them when only one of them would actually work in the main series. Our next episode will be on the Elder Dragons, and its format will be a bit different than the previous videos. See you folks then.